When It Worked podcast, you're with your host Julian Leahy. Today I'm joined by the fantastic Len Bruskiewitz from Boston. Welcome, Len.
Thank you, Julian. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So we're going to play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and then we're going to talk to Len shortly after that. Are you ready, Len? First question. According to legend, country club employee Buddy Mulligan inspired a term often used in what sport? Tennis?
I'm going to go. Go ahead. Read it.
Tennis, basketball, golf, or soccer?
I'm going to go with C, golf.
Let's lock in C, the old mulligan. Now that's correct. Well done. Now a mulligan is when you go one over. Is that correct? Or is that a bogey? No, that's a bogey.
That's about a mulligan's when you say I'm going to do that one over.
You just have a mulligan, and you got to have good friends with you for a mulligan. We've got another according to legend. That's because they're alphabetically sorted. Silly me. According to legend, the ghosts of Anne Boleyn and Sir Walter Raleigh haunt what London landmark? Big Ben, Westminster Abbey, Tower of London, or Buckingham Palace? The ghosts of Anne Boleyn and Sir Walter Raleigh haunt what London landmark? Len, do you have
I'm going to go with C again, Tower of London.
No lifelines needed. No hesitation. Well done. How did you know that, Len?
I've been to the Tower of London tour. So.
Is that good?
It is good. It's pretty amazing, grounds and facility. There's some great stories around it.
I went there, but I didn't do that tour. I really wish I did. One of the many regrets in my life. According to legend, what Looney Tunes character was born in a warren under the old Dodgers Stadium in Brooklyn? Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, Bugs Bunny, or Elmer Fudd?
I'm going to guess on this one and say it's Bugs Bunny.
I was going to give you a bit of a hint there because Warren gives it away a little bit, doesn't it?
It does. That was my guess. I don't think pigs are born in warrens.
No, they're not. Well done. That's correct. No lifelines left. By the way, you do have a 50-50 split. You can ask for help, or you can Google it yourself. So I'll give you help, or you Google it, or you get a 50-50 split. I've changed it up a little bit. Anyway, next question. According to McDonald's, how many calories does its signature Big Mac sandwich have? 450, 540, 620, or 700 calories? How would you know this unless you're doing Weight Watchers or something?
Yeah, I don't know this one. I'll have to admit it.
Well, we can do a 50-50 split, which will bring it down to 50%, or you can Google it. What do you want to do?
I'll do the 50-50.
All right, let's do a 50-50. We've got 450 calories or 540 calories. Len?
I'm going to go 540 calories.
540. Okay, the higher amount of the two is correct. Whoa, that was lucky. That was a bit of a coin flip. You got two lifelines left. According to myth, what country's capital was founded by the twins Romulus and Remus? What country's capital, according to myth? Now, if we're talking myths, by the way, the countries are Greece, Spain, France, or Italy.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Italy here. I think that they allegedly founded Rome, so I'm going with Italy.
Romulus. Okay, well, I was going to go Greece, but I don't really know what I'm talking about. Italy is correct. Well done, Len. You've got two lifelines left. You're going very well so far. According to official law, whose birth was greeted by a double rainbow over sacred Mount Paektu? Mao Zedong, Vladimir Lenin, Kim Jong-il, or Joseph Stalin? The old dictator... magic stories.
Exactly. Just based on the name, I'm going to go with C, Kim Jong-il.
Sounds pretty good to me. Kim Jong-il is correct. Well done. Kim Jong-un managed to play a round of golf where he got 18 hole-in-ones apparently as well, which is incredible for someone of his athletic build. According to reality star Mike the Situation Sorrentino, the situation refers to what muscular body part? His biceps, his chest, his abs, or his legs?
I can't say that I'm a big fan of the situation.
This is one of those questions that if you are actually smart, you won't know.
Well, thank you for the compliment there.
And who? I mean, this
is
when was this? This was like early 2000s, Jersey Shore. I was
Jersey
reading an
Shore,
article
yeah.
about this guy actually recently, and just a pure coincidence. Anyway, the situation, what muscular body part was he always showing off? You got a ask for help, or you can Google it.
Well, since you just read an article, I'm gonna ask you for help.
I would say it's his abs.
That's what I was thinking as well. Let's go with
you
abs.
didn't even need to use your lifeline. Well, that's correct. Well done. Proving that I'm not smart because I knew that one. According to superstition, where should you never put a hat? On a chair, on a bed, on a table, or on the floor?
Boy, this isn't a superstition I'm familiar with, but I'm just gonna go with my gut here and say on a table.
Interesting. Okay. You don't want to have a lifeline? Let's just lock it in.
Yeah.
On a table.
On a table.
Is incorrect. And I don't even know what the correct answer was. I think it might be the floor. They don't let you know, unfortunately. Nevertheless, well played, Len. Let's have a round of applause for Len Bruskiewitz in Boston. You're in Boston, correct?
Yeah, just outside of Boston.
Is everyone in Boston a sports fanatic?
I would say most people are.
Okay, but not you,
Most
Len?
people- I am. I'm just not necessarily an entirely Boston fan. I'm a big fan of the Boston Bruins, the hockey team.
The hockey team. Interesting. Okay, I don't know anything about that one. I do watch the Celtics sometimes. All right, enough fantastic small talk. Let's get into what you're doing, Len. And this is Len's focal point. Tell us a little bit about that, your journey into coaching, what it is you do, and who you do it for.
Yeah, so my journey started. I worked for many years. I had a pretty successful career in high tech. I worked for a number of companies, almost all focused on small businesses as their customer. So I spent significant amounts of time at Intuit, at Constant Contact, the email marketing giant, Grasshopper, which is a virtual phone service for small businesses.
Is that
as
still
well as
around,
a website.
Grasshopper?
Grasshopper is. It's part of GoTo, which
Yes.
is the old Log Me In.
They got bought out,
so
didn't
it's
they?
still around. They did, yeah.
Yeah.
And then also a website startup that focused on restaurants. So my entire career really has been focused on small businesses as the customer. And I did a lot of partnership work there. So I built partnerships where I would get companies to promote my products company to their customers, their small business customers. And what I found was that I loved doing that. I had a fair bit of success, but I got tired of corporate life. I just was a little bit done with the corporate world. And what I did is I looked back on what I really enjoyed doing. And as much as I enjoyed building partnerships, what I really enjoyed, especially in the latter part of my career, was mentoring and coaching others, both colleagues of mine as well as even the partners I was working with at other companies. And so when I said, I'm done with corporate, it was a pretty logical flow for me to move into coaching. And so that's what I did. And I'm now a certified business coach with Focal Point. And my specific target is, again, small business owners, and more specifically, those who are starting to think about transitioning out of their businesses, whether that's in 2 years or 20 years, to be honest with you, because really, Julian, nobody teaches you how to get your business ready to transition out of. There are lots of guides on how to start a business, how to run a business, but not many on how to get your business ready to transition, whether that's to a family member, a third party, whoever. So
Yes, I
that's
mean,
how I got it.
it's one of those things. It's like, hey, I'm over here flat out trying to make this work and not go broke. And you know, how am I going to be thinking about what I'm going to be exiting and handing it over? Like, I don't even know if it's going to work yet. And do you find that sometimes most of the time, people go in a certain direction with their business, and they have so much entanglement with the everyday functioning of the business that it's a nightmare to even extract people in terms of delegating, let alone handing it over. Do you find that a lot, that sometimes it's just like there's so many changes you need to make in terms of how the person is operating, that would probably help the business, let alone allow them to exit, if you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think it's one of the biggest reasons why business owners don't even try to go down that path. They think it's too complicated. They think it's too difficult. And what that really is an indication of is that they're so intertwined with their business that they can't see themselves separating. And so a big piece of what I do is really there are a couple items that help. And one of them feels negative, but in the end, it really spurs action. And that is having a professional business valuation done of their company. And the reason I do that very early on is to just set a starting point. Because I'll be honest with you, Julian, most business owners think their business is worth way more than it really is at the time. So as much as it's kind of a little bit of a level set and a bummer to hear that my business isn't worth as much as I thought, it gives a place to work from, right? To say, okay, we can make changes to increase the valuation, because when it comes down to it, if you think about your future, and that may not be retirement, it may just be your next big thing, the only way to make up any gap in the financial realm is through the value of your business. You just can't save enough or invest enough. So getting that business valuation and knowing now what to start to work on is a big piece of it. The second big piece is really about what are you going to do post transition? Because if you don't have a plan for that, it's really hard to sell your business, because potential buyers will say, "What are you going to do next?" And if you say, "I don't know," the risk that you're going to bail on the transaction is much higher. So I really try and sit down with people, with business owners, and say, "What are you going to do next?" And that a lot of times will help them start to get that independence. But your point is absolutely correct. If you can't separate yourself, you can't sell your business, because what is somebody buying, right?
Yes, exactly. And when it comes time for you to give them this reality check of in terms of valuation, do they pick the valuer or do you pick the valuer? Because I was just wondering if you bring someone in, the likelihood of them going, "Oh, you're just lowballing, this is crazy," or do you let them bring somebody in, which could cause problems in another direction?
I typically recommend a professional valuation. So I have resources to do that, but it comes along with a certificate
Yeah. It's
of value, right?
it,
So
it's
it's
it's alleged like it's illegal. It's like when you get a property valuation done by a property valuer. It's legit.
exactly.
Yeah.
And is it perfect? No, because things change, but it is relatively independent. And again, I'm it doesn't matter to me what the valuation is, so I have no vested interest in that. What it really is just setting a baseline to work from. So if somebody wanted to go and get their own professional valuation, that's fine as
That's fine.
well.
Yeah.
But it's just to get a good idea of where the business is today.
Yes, very interesting. And how invasive is it, and how long does it take? And is it a huge PITA for the business owner?
It is not. It typically takes a couple hours of time. So there are a few components to it to get evaluation done. Certainly to pull together typically 3 years of financial statements, which if you're running a real business, you should have that, right? You should have your uh, bookkeeper, your accountant with financial statements. So 3 years of financial statements, typically a P&L, a balance sheet, cash flow. And then it's typically an hour or two interview with the valuation person and with me on the line as well, just to get some bearings because the financials aren't always, there are things going on that may not be reflected there.
Yeah.
And then it's typically about a week or two of work that the business owner is not involved in. And then normally about another hour call just to review the results. So from
Okay.
the business owner's perspective, it's not a highly invasive
Yeah, it
process.
doesn't sound too bad
It's
at
a
all.
few hours.
Do they visit on the premises, or are they just going to get the books from the accountant and then have a call with, or a Zoom call?
For a typical, pretty low impact, there's no site visit. It's purely Zoom call and financial statements.
Awesome. Yes, and the other interesting thing you told me was having the person starting to have a commitment that they have built in terms of what they're going to do at the end. And that just really made sense to me because I can just imagine it's like anything. When you get a commitment from somebody, you can work with them as far as the decision making goes. But when somebody says they're going to do something, but they don't have any commitment to something that shows that, it's usually going to have a bad result. So what are some of the examples of things that people do? Like they might buy a little coffee shop or something, or like a retirement shop or a totally different business. What are some of the things you've seen?
There are a range. So one is certainly retirement, right? Just I'm going to move, I'm going to do whatever, I'm going to get out of the business. That's one common. Another is what you described, maybe buying a smaller, easier to manage business. A third, which is relatively common, is business owners saying, I want to give back to the community. So they may volunteer, they may join boards of directors of nonprofits, and they may volunteer their time to give back to their community, whether that's, mentoring young people, whether that's, just working at a nonprofit as, as kind of an employee, just something that gives them meaning and lets them leverage the skills that they've built over time. So those are three typical: the pure retirement, the buy something else that's normally a lower stressor, and then third is to go down a volunteer path.
And do you typically want to see some sort of commitment in that area, or do you take their word for it and you can sort of tell if they're serious or not?
I mean, I can't force them, right?
Mm.
So I typically trust when they commit to a plan. But again, it's the potential buyer that has to believe their plan, because there are some statistics out there that uh, of the deals between buyers and sellers that don't end up happening, that kind of crater at the last minute, 95% of the time it's because the seller changes their mind. They basically get cold feet and decide to stay in the business. And there can be a number of reasons for that. Maybe they just don't end up liking the price, but a lot of times it's because they don't know what they're going to do next. And so the easiest thing for them to do is say, I'm just going to continue to run the business as I've been. So um, that is really between the buyer and the seller. But yeah, you get a pretty good sense of whether they're committed to their future plan or not.
Interesting. And it's interesting actually what you do where you get the evaluation done at the beginning of the process, because I've talked to some people where they have that happening kind of as the just before the selling part. And it really hadn't occurred to me that that's potentially going to be a huge problem because you don't know what they're going to say. Whereas you do it up front, they pay for that up front. If they want to continue from there, they do. And if they say, look, that's less than what I need, let's end it. That's another option, isn't it?
Certainly. Yeah. And my time frame when I work with clients is, optimally at least 2 years, preferably, 3 to 5. And the reason is when you talk about things that you can change to increase the value of the company, a lot of those things can't happen overnight, right? So if you have some things in your financial records that maybe not so proud of, you need a couple of years to have those move into the past, right?
Yeah.
So and also things, one of the things that I talk about in terms of that getting that independence from a business owner's perspective is documenting your processes, right? So somebody else can come in and take that business over. That takes time, right? What we're seeing a lot more now, which I really like, is rather than writing out documents, business owners are using AI to do some documentation. They're also doing it in video rather than in written form. So they'll sit down and say, let's just say, entering a sales order, and they'll turn on their video camera and say, these are the steps. I do this, I do that. And documenting that process serves two purposes. One, it makes it easier for somebody to come in and run that business. But secondly, it's also a way for that business owner to start to work on the independence, because now if I know somebody else can come in and do this task, that relieves the stress that I'm the only one, right? So maybe now I can take a vacation that I haven't taken in a long time because I can bring in some other people and they can follow the script. So those are some pieces.
Yeah, I was also thinking that by having a look at all your processes and documenting how to do that, I reckon there would be a lot of opportunity for the person to say, look, why are we doing it this way? And then actually honing and improving these processes while you're doing it. And you get people say, geez, why didn't we do this 30 years ago? Document everything and just make sure everyone knows what's to be done. The other question I had for you, Len, was you talked about the buyers. Now, at what point in the process are the buyers a part of it? Do you have some people that are looking to buy businesses? How do you introduce buyers to talk to these people once they get everything fit for sale?
Yeah, I'm typically representing the seller. I'm working with the seller, so I try to maintain pretty separate relationships. Normally, who they're working with there, once they get to that point where they're ready, is a business broker or an M&A advisor if they're a larger organization. And these companies do this for a living. They are able to find multiple potential buyers, and they know where to market the business to get ultimately multiple offers, which is good for the seller, right? So my job is really to do the preparation, and then the business owner will normally, and I can guide, but the business owner will choose a broker or an M&A advisor to actually handle the transaction.
Okay, cool. And the potential seller is the person that pays you for the service, not the potential buyer. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm working with the business owner themselves rather than any potential buyer.
Well, that's very interesting, Len. And what type of businesses do you mostly work with? Are they all around Boston, or are they US wide?
Really North America wide. Nothing I do is kind of tax or legal specific, so I'm not bounded by state or even provincial boundaries in Canada. So any place geographically is an option for me. I work with just about any industry out there. There are certainly some where I've had more success, but effectively I don't need to understand the inner workings of your business to help you. In some ways, it's actually beneficial that I am agnostic to the industry. because I come at it from a perspective of let's just look at it at its core rather than needing to know the specifics of a particular industry.
Awesome, Len. And just on your website, we can book a call, and you've also got this valuation calculator. How does that work? I can't actually bring that up, but they can find it on the website. Do you want to tell us about that?
Not a problem. Yeah, that business valuation calculator is about a 15-minute tool to use. It's free, and what it does is really two things. It gives you gives a business owner a really rough idea of what their business is worth. So it asks them for their last year's income, for their revenue, and then it pick an industry. So it does a little bit of calculation based on their industry. So it generates a rough idea of what their business is worth today. And then the second thing it does, which is really helpful, is it basically goes through and the business owner answers some questions. And what that yields is how ready is their business for transitioning. So it gives them a score on a number of these questions and gives some guidance as to what they would need to do to increase that score, which I think is really helpful. This is the idea you touched on earlier is I've got all these things that I could do. What this tool does is help you focus on the ones that maybe need the most effort and will have the most impact. So you don't have to solve all of them at once. It's you pick one, work on it, make some progress, move on to the next one.
That's fantastic, Len, because even just as a lead capture process, because it gives something that people will have questions about, want to talk to you about. When did you get that built on your website? Because most people don't have that. They just have a ordinary book a call thing.
Yeah, it's through a third-party company that I work with, and they do this for a living, right? They do business valuations for a living, but this is a free tool that I'm able to offer, and again, it's as you mentioned, it gives you some great information to work from, and if you do have questions about how to improve in some of these areas, that's where I can come in and help.
Awesome. And what size businesses, before we wrap it up, Len, do you mostly work with and types? Did we say that already?
No, we haven't.
No.
My target company size is typically from about 1 to 10 million in revenue. So, a little bit bigger than a solo dog walker, but clearly not a massive company. That's my sweet spot is that, a company with maybe 5 or 6 employees doing 1 to 10 million in revenue.
Fantastic. So if that fits the bill for you out there and you're interested, or just even if you've just got questions about your business and selling your business and maybe what it's worth, and you want to have a chat to Len, I've got Len's business website there, Focal Point, and you can hit Len up on LinkedIn as well. And thank you very much, Len, for coming on. That was very interesting.
Great. I appreciate you inviting me.
No worries. Well, thank you everyone for listening and watching. I'm going to wrap things up and I'll see you very soon on another episode. Bye.